So what we're going to do is we're going to, I put together some pretty simplistic, not simplistic, but simple problems or scenarios where we can use the if function. And I just want to help you think it through. And these are simple, but the best way to learn these projects is to come up with your own scenario, because you know what you wanted to say. So I'm just, these little samples here are just to help you through that. So I'm going to share my screen.
Oh,
Can everyone see this?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Stop.
Excuse me. Did everyone get to see the YouTube replay of our class?
All of it. And can you just quickly say what the IF function is, where I find it on the bar? And I
Okay.
apologize for holding everybody back.
No, it's up right up at the top. Should be.
Okay. At the top of your ribbon, you'll see formulas.
Okay, all right, got
And
it.
you'll
Thank
find
you.
it under logical.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. All right. So, so this particular scenario that we'll start off with, I'm asking you to use the if function to show the city name with the highest rainfall. Now I know we can all just look at this chart and figure it out on our own, but let's just pretend that we have a very long list. And it could be for the next 5 years or something. Right now, it's just January through December. So cell D7 is where we want to see the name of the city with the highest rainfall. So we're going to use the if function. Basically, the if function is to say, if your scenario, pardon?
No, excuse me, no.
Okay. So the if function is that you are going to basically, based on a certain criteria, your logical test, that they like to call it, and I like to call it basically condition. So if your condition results in a true or a false outcome, then you want to determine what action are you going to take if it's true and what action are you going to take if it's false. So in this particular case, we want Excel to tell us which of these cities has the highest rainfall. So for us to determine that, we're going to compare the cities to each other. So I'm going to press the equal sign. I'm going to type if, so I can get my little list. And I'm going to double click on the first if, the one that's highlighted in blue. And it starts putting the function up in my formula bar. And I like to click the FX to open up the function argument box that I told you about. Okay. The function argument box I like to use because it helps me put everything in the right order so that it will work properly. So it has logical test is bold, which tells me this must be filled out in order for this function to work. The value if true and the value if false are optional, but I like to use it. So since in this particular case, this is a very simple case, we can choose any city we want. Doesn't make any difference whether we start with Buffalo or with Seattle. So let's just start with Buffalo. So I'm going to click.
Where's the list of cities?
In
It's
our
on your
sheet,
sheet.
it says it's just Buffalo and Seattle. We have a Buffalo column and we have a Seattle column.
Oh, yes. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Mary Green is asking for the link to get on to this class. Let's see. Dorothy, do you think you can do that for me?
Yes, I'll do that.
Okay. So in our chart here, what did I do with my, I just
Okay, steady with the
accidentally
highest
closed
rate.
my,
Okay.
I accidentally closed my if function. Let me open it back up.
Okay. Now, when I went into the if function, I didn't get the dialog box.
Okay,
Oh, because this says this is a problem with it. There's a problem with this formula. And I haven't.
okay. If you type in your formula bar equals if, and you click on the little FX in the box to the left of it, it's going to open up this function argument box.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, it didn't do that.
Yeah, I like to, like I said, I like to open the function argument box.
The function argument box doesn't show up.
It doesn't show up.
On the your spreadsheet now,
It was on yours, but it doesn't on mine.
not,
Okay, to get it, what I started with, I was in cell D7.
Correct.
I pressed the enter key and I typed if. And when
Yeah.
I typed if, below D7 was a little box that had the word if and other functions that began with if. And I double clicked on the first one because that's the one I want to use. If you double click on it, you'll get actually the syntax of the function below. And I don't want to use that. I want to use it in the function argument box. So I go up to my formula bar, and to the left of the formula bar, you'll see an X, you'll see a check mark, and you'll see a little FX.
Yes.
Click on the FX and that opens up your function.
Oh, okay. Oh. Huh. Yeah.
Okay,
Formula builder.
yes. Are you in something other than Excel?
No, I actually opened up the page that you sent. And so it's almost exactly like yours, except that the ribbon bar is different.
Are you on a Mac?
Yes, MacBook Air. That's
Okay,
the problem.
that's why.
Got it. Okay.
When you
Sorry,
said formula builder, and I said, that's not what Microsoft calls it. So I figured you must be on a different system. So again,
Okay.
Macintosh, you're using of course the Macintosh version of Microsoft Office. They don't put things exactly in the same place. They don't do it exactly the same way. And I'm not familiar enough with the Macintosh way. And I don't know why, Apple and Microsoft don't exactly speak the same language. So anyway.
Okay, I'll pay attention to yours there.
Okay, so now that I have my function argument box, remember my logical test is going to begin with comparing two cells. So I'm going to click on cell B7, which happens to have the rainfall of Buffalo. And I want to compare it to Seattle. So I want to determine whether it's greater than or less than the value of Buffalo. So let's just type in the greater than sign that happens to be the caret that points to the right. Okay, so we're saying if the value found in B7 or if the value in Buffalo is greater than the value, and then we're going to click on Seattle, which happens to be in C7. Now notice in my logical test, it's saying that it is not greater, so therefore the result is false. B7 is not greater than C7. Buffalo rainfall is not greater than Seattle's rainfall.
Where does it say, I'm sorry, where does it say, we know by looking at it that it's not greater than, but where does the computer say that B7 is not greater than C7?
In the logical test on my function argument box, when I clicked on B7, it placed B7 in my logical test. I typed the caret, the greater than symbol, which is Shift on my keyboard, it's the shift period
Okay.
key.
Yeah,
And
My
then I
goodness.
clicked on cell C7 and it typed in C7.
But it didn't give you anything, any results or anything.
yeah, at the side,
Yes, it
way over
does.
on the side.
Yeah, to
No,
the
in the
far,
logical box, false.
yes. It says equals false.
Okay, I don't show that, it doesn't show that on the screen. It has our pictures on the screen. And that blocks that out for me. I'm on a laptop.
Okay, let me see if I can move this. Can you see it now?
No, yes, yes, okay.
Okay,
Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
okay, yeah, that's, unfortunately, I can't see what you see.
Right,
I
understood.
had the box to the right. I didn't realize it was blocking it. And I don't have any of your pictures showing, just in case it was covering something. So the logical function argument box shows the logical test says B7 is greater than C7. And the answer to that is false in this particular case, because it's reading the values found in B7, which happens to be 3, and the value in C7, which happens to be 6. And so therefore, B7 is not greater than C7. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. The value underneath says value if true. So what do you want it to display if it's true? Well, if it's true, we want it to, if Buffalo is greater than, then we want it to say Buffalo. So I'm going to click in the cell that has the word Buffalo in it. Or notice when I typed in B6, to the right, it says equals Buffalo. I could actually, if I want to, just type in the word Buffalo. So if you type Buffalo and press your tab key, notice it says equals Buffalo. So if you don't want to use cell references in this case, you can actually use a word. You have to put the quotation marks around the word so that Excel knows that this is a label and not a value. Okay. If it's false, we want it to say Seattle. So I'm going to type in Seattle and press the tab key. I press the tab key so that the quotation marks are automatically included. If I don't, it will say Seattle and it won't have the quotation marks, and you're going to get an error because Excel's not going to know that you're, not talking about a value. So now also you can see that it's giving you the results. So since we know that Buffalo's value is not greater than Seattle, the city with the greatest amount of rainfall for January happens to be Seattle. So it's showing you right there. Okay, I'm going to click OK. And I see the word Seattle for January. Okay. Does this make sense so far?
Yes.
Let me see if I can see some faces here. Okay. Good morning, Mary. I see you made it. Mary, I hope you got the worksheets I sent everybody. You're muted, so I can't hear you if you are talking to me.
You have to come up with a universal sign showing that you're mute. The teacher or whoever can show that you're muted by putting your hand over your mouth or something.
Yeah. What does the IF mean?
It's a function, the if function, the
Okay.
function, yeah, it's a
Okay.
function. It means that if there's a certain condition is met, the condition that's either going to be true or false, and then you decide what response do you want if it's true and what response you want if it's false.
I'll get up. Okay.
I can do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So in this particular case, we decided to say if the value, if Buffalo is greater than, if the rainfall in Buffalo is greater than the rainfall in Seattle, in this case, it's not. So the city with the highest rainfall is.
So do you have to put in the Buffalo and the Seattle?
Yes, if you want
Words?
it.
I mean,
You-
spelled out.
You don't have to. You can actually let Excel do it. Now I'm going to show you if I did it instead of typing the word, if I just typed in for Buffalo B7 and
Okay.
for Seattle C7,
C7.
okay, it's still going to come out the same way because Excel is looking, I'm telling Excel where to find the value. So look for the value in 7. It found 3, and the value in C7 found 6. Which one is greater? 6. So
Right.
it's this, okay.
Right.
Now,
Okay, thank you.
now, if I want to copy this formula all the way down, I don't want to type this in over and over again, I can use my autofill. Now, if I use my autofill, let's just drag it down a couple of months.
Okay.
And notice
Oh,
it's not right. We're saying, well, wait a minute, why is it doing this?
right.
Okay, first thing you do is do not delete what's wrong, because you won't understand why it's wrong. To find out why it's wrong, what we see up in the active cell right now is in D7. So that's why we see this. We know this is right. We don't know why is this one wrong. So when we click on cell D8 and read what the formula bar is telling us, it says if B8, okay, that's right, B8 is greater than C8, okay, that's right, then put in B8. Well, if you look at what's in B8, I'm sorry, it's if B it says B8, yes. Yeah. So if it says B8, and you'll see in B8 is 2.4, because that's because it is false. So if you go to C7, you'll see that it says 6. It's looking up here instead of up here. You see that? When we copied down, it went
Looking
down
up
another
to
row.
Seattle. All right, okay.
Yes. So it found the word Seattle instead of the word, instead of, yeah.
Buffalo.
Okay. So what this tells us that it's looking in the wrong direction. It keeps on dropping. So if you go down to what it says D8, you'll see that again. Now it's looking at
Just Seattle.
So it's not looking here. It should be looking either at B6 or C6, but it's looking at B7, looking at,
No, it's looking at just Seattle.
It added.
it's dropping down.
Yeah.
We don't want it to drop down. We want it
For
to,
each month.
we want it to consistently just look at these two cells, B6 and B7. C. So this is when you would use your absolute cell referencing or name the cells. So we know this one's correct.
Right.
So what we're going to do is we're going to modify this one. We're going to go, since we know we want it to always look at either B7. Wait a minute. Well, let me open up here. We wanted to look at B7 or C6 consistently. Wait a second, something's wrong here.
Not B7, it should be B6.
Yeah, that's what I just realized. It should be B6. Yeah, there we go. Why is my phone? Okay. So when we copied down, we wanted to always go to B6 and C6. We don't want it to go to C6, C7, C8, etc. So I'm just going to just change these to my absolute cell reference using my shift, using my Windows 4. Okay. Oh, I see what happened. My gardener's out here. That's what's all that. My security system's going off. I'm trying to figure out. I didn't see him. Now I see him. Okay. So now that I know I've got this corrected, now when I copy down, it's giving me the right answers.
Okay.
Okay.
So
So basically, every time you do that, you want to make sure that you're using an absolute value, not just bringing it all the way down.
Yes, if you are copying down, when you're creating a formula, you know you're going to copy down or copy across. And if you have any constants in your formula, those constants need to be, made absolute self-referencing. Now, if you notice, if you continue to look at the Goodwill lessons, they told you that you can also, if you want to click and fill in a whole column without dragging, if you double click, it'll fill it in for you.
oh,
So if you have a really long column, like 1,000 rows or whatever, and you don't want to be dragging it down, if you double click on it, it will fill in the entire column. Okay.
okay.
Now, in this case, I chose if B7 is greater than C7. I could have done the opposite. I could have said if
Less than.
less than, and if I copy down, I'm going to get okay.
Oh, okay.
So it really makes no difference in this particular scenario which one you go with. All right. This was a very simple scenario for an if function. And one reason why I use this one is I wanted to show you that you can use either words or cell references. I could have just put in the word Buffalo or Seattle. I didn't have to use the cell reference.
Now, would they consider that an absolute value, even though it doesn't have the $sign?
Well, if I had changed this to Buffalo, and it's only one cell that actually has the word Buffalo in it. So let me just. So if it's looking, you're telling it where to find. So you're saying if Buffalo is less than Seattle, I want you to click on the cell that has the word Buffalo in it, and I can just type it because it's doesn't, even the location is there. I don't have to type just the location. Since it's got a label, I can put in the label. And the same thing with Seattle. I can just type it in.
I'm going to ask a question, and where is that absolute tab at?
Okay, if you hold the F4 function key is the one that does that, but depending on whether your computer or a laptop, on my case, I have to hold down my Windows key plus the F4 key. My other computer, I just had to press the F4 key because it was an older computer.
Okay, Control F4. Okay, thank you.
So the computer recognizes the word Buffalo and Seattle as being absolutes.
Well, you might say that because there's only one. The absolute means there's only going to be one place to find this value.
Okay.
There's only one cell that has that, and that happens to be B6. So,
Understood.
yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's look at assignment number 2. Now this is showing you another scenario. It's going to be a little different, a little more complex, because now this particular worksheet has some dates in it. So here's the word problem, if you want to look at it that way. Use the if function to calculate the discount amount, if any. So in here, we want to see what is the amount of discount. Here's the condition. The discount is earned if the customer's payment date is equal to 10 or fewer days from the invoice date. Okay, and dates can be added and subtracted just like any other value. Now, if you're remembering your days back, far back in your memory about word problems, the fact that we use the word difference. Did I use the word difference? No, I guess I didn't. Oh, yeah, I guess I didn't say it, but it's equal to 10 or few days from the invoice. And what does that tell you? What kind of mathematical calculation?
Less than.
What?
Less than. Less than.
Less than or subtraction.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so the first thing you have to do is you have to subtract one date from the other.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So we want, again, here's what we want the result to be in the discount amount box. We're going to equal if, and once again, double click and click on the FX. So the very first thing we have to figure out is how many days between the invoice date and the payment date. So what are we going to subtract?
We're going to subtract
15 from the 22nd.
the month. How many
Where
days
do-
are in the month?
I did this already. So.
We don't have to do it in months. We could just click on the date, because remember it can.
Oh,
Okay.
Date of purchase.
due date, 10 days from the due date, are you asking?
Yes.
Okay,
Okay. So the payment date
okay. Payment date
minus
is-
the invoice date. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the calculation. What does the result of that calculation have to be?
That 15 or 19.
For the discount to occur. No.
Right.
No, I'm.
Right. The condition was that the payment date is equal to 10 or fewer days from the invoice date. So that means it has to be less than 10.
10, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
So that happens to be our logical test. All we have to do is either going to be true or false. So whatever the result of the payment date minus the invoice date has to be less than or equal to, I forgot. Less than or equal to. After the less than, you must put the equal sign. Okay.
Okay.
So if it's less than or equal to 10, if it's true, and right now, this is telling me that it's true, what do we want it to do if it's true? Well, also notice that if it's 10 days or less, they get a discount rate of 2%.
Right.
2% of what?
Their
The
invoice total.
amount.
Their
Amount
invoice.
due.
Right. So that means we're going to take the invoice amount. How do you figure 2% of that?
Times,
Yes,
Point
Times 0.02.
2, right?
you can multiply,
Multiply.
yes. The invoice date times 10%.
no,
And you can-
2%.
Sorry, I'm sorry,
Oh,
yeah, right, 2%. 2%, and you can use the percent sign. Oops,
I'm sorry.
times 0.02. Or you can actually, be honest with you, you can actually click on the 2% in your worksheet, because the 2% actually is 0.02. That's how Excel's reading that. It's giving you the answer right here. If it's false,
Oh, there it is.
you're not going to do anything.
Nine 1796.
You don't have to
Sorry.
figure it out. It's doing it for you.
Right.
When you put in the invoice amount
Got it.
times the 2% in cell C28, it already figured it out as $9.18. If it's not, they do not get a discount. So you can put in a 0, or you can put in empty quotation marks. I'm going to put in a 0. So it's giving you the answer. You did not have to pull out a calculator and figure it out for yourself. Excel did that for you. You just told it where to find the values. You told it, I want you to look at the invoice date, and I want you to multiply that by the 2%. And if it is greater than 2, then they get nothing. So if I click OK, there's my answer. If you want to round it up, you can. If you want to. And again, now that I know that I'm going to, when I do something like this, I know that I want to copy down. In this particular formula, if I put in all numbers, I wouldn't worry about it. But in this particular formula, the 2%, I don't want, when I copy down, I don't want it to go from C28 to C29 to C30, etc. So I need to make this an absolute cell reference. Okay. If I copy down, so this tells me that this person's invoice was greater than 10 days. This one is less, greater, less. If I want to put this in kind of format that we want, dollars and cents, I can go to my home tab and put it in accounting format so that I know I'm looking at dollars and cents.
why didn't it put the 0 in?
I didn't really want it to. I just
Oh,
wanted,
okay.
I just wanted to know that they're not getting any discount.
Okay, okay. It just, it unclutters it too. Okay,
Okay, so we figured out how much they're going to get. Now, in this column, we want to know how much money is going to be the total amount due.
Right.
And this is just a plain old formula. So what would this formula be?
Mm-hmm.
What would this formula be?
Let's see.
Equals,
B32 minus E32.
On my paper. 'Cause I worked that out last week.
Do we put, we don't need to put anything after that, right?
Right.
Uh,
So we've subtracted $9.18 from 458, and this is what we get, 449. And we can copy this down. And we could see the ones that did not get a discount. This is going to equal that. This is going to equal that. Now, I know a lot of you are still calculating in your heads. But when you get used to understanding that Excel knows what it's doing, you're just telling it where to find the figures and what to do with it. Makes your job so much easier.
That's frustrating, that's for sure.
Yeah. And when you have large worksheets, which many of us do, you'll find it's so much easier. And the one thing about it, if you are doing something wrong, and that's why I make this area big, this tells you exactly what's in the cell, okay? So if it's pointing in the wrong direction, if something's wrong, Excel will show that to you. If something is looking in the wrong direction, it'll give you, error messages. So, and most of us have an idea of what we're expecting, and if it looks really way off, you can say, wait a minute, what's wrong here?
Well,
Gina, can you show the calculation you used for the previous section where
This
you
one
got?
here, the if function.
Yes,
Okay. So when I open up the if function dialog box, and let's speak in English here, okay? So the logical test here is saying that we are going to subtract the invoice date, which is D32, from the, D32. So we're taking the invoice date. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. First thing we're doing is we're taking the payment date, and we're subtracting the invoice date. And if that value is less than or equal to 10, and this particular example is showing that it is less than 10, and we know that if it is less than 10, they're going to get a discount of 2%, 2% of the invoice. Oh, there goes mine. So if the discount, if the days between the payment date and invoice date are less than 10, they get 2% discount off the invoice. And if it's greater than 10, they get no discount whatsoever. Okay, Dorothy, is that okay?
yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Okay. Going to my computer now, Gina.
Okay. To recap, the difference between the first example we did with the Seattle and Buffalo deal was we just are comparing two cities, and we're just looking at, and our comparison was saying which cell had the greater amount. If it had a greater amount, then we're going to list the city that had the greater amount. This one down here, we're adding to the condition. The first condition it had to make was a mathematical condition, which means we had to subtract two dates, and the result had to be greater than or equal to 10. Once that condition was met, then the result was we're going to reward those that had 10 days or less with a discount. And so we wanted to calculate that discount because we didn't want to just say, yes, they got a discount. We wanted to say how much the discount was. So we had to put a formula in there to say the discount was going to be 2% of the invoice. So we put the calculation in there so that when it displayed exactly how much the discount was. And if it didn't meet that first condition, if it was greater than 10 days, they didn't get any discount at all. So we just said, 0. So what I'm trying to point out is that your conditions, whether your condition is in your logical test, if it could be a calculation, it could just be a word. You could use a formula. Here's an example I remember seeing, a payroll where the condition was whether or not the employee was paying the premium healthcare plan or the standard healthcare plan. So basically it said if they are getting a premium, then the amount that they paid was X amount of dollars. If it was standard, it had a different amount. And all I had to do was type premium in my condition. If, you know, this particular patient had a premium, if it said premium, then the premium had a different amount. My point is, your condition can be a word, it could be a cell, it could be a formula or function. Bottom line here, really, the main thing about the condition, your logical test, somewhere in your logical test, there's going to be a comparison operator, greater than, less than or equal to, not equal to. And because of that, once that comparison is met, you're going to get a value of either true or false. And after that is really simple. What do you want to display if it's true? What do you want to display if it's false? And sometimes, like I said, the value of true and value of false is not even mandatory, it's optional. Does this make sense? Does this scenario make sense? Okay. Okay, I have one other scenario. So I'm going to scroll back up to the top. I mean, near the top where it says assignment 3. And I'm going to shift over. So this one is saying to use the if function to determine the cost for each customer. Now, the condition is if they purchase, they're going to order up to 500 units, the cost for the widget is going to be 25 cents. Okay, if they're going over 500 units, the cost will go down 5 cents. So Bill Smith, he ordered 900 units. So the total cost is going to be what?
Times 20 cents.
Exactly. So the cost is going to be the quantity times the lower cost. So if it's under 500 units, 500 or less, they're going to be charged 25 cents per unit. Okay. Here's where I put my if function. Equals if I double click and I click on the fx to open up the function argument box. So my logical test is that the quantity, which happens to be in cell H20, is greater than, or I'll say less than or equal to 500 if that's true, then the quantity is going to be multiplied by 25 cents. That's if it's true. as we can see in our case, this Bill Smith is false because his is greater than. So if it's false, then it's still going to be the quantity times the cheaper amount.
All right.
Okay. All right. Now, are there any constant values in our formula that we want to make sure it doesn't shift if we copy this formula down?
Yeah, the 25 cents and the 20 cents, right?
Exactly. So that means the H16 needs to be an absolute cell reference, and the H17 has to be an absolute cell reference.
You use F4 to do that.
Yes. My computer's going crazy here. Come on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my computer kind of went crazy. Okay. So if I copy down, and if I want this to look like dollars and cents, I'm going to tell it I want it dollars and cents. Okay.
So, stupid question. There's
There's
no
no such
sense.
thing. What?
There's no, because the 0.20 would not give you any change. That's the easiest way I can say that. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I
Because
mean,
the
if it had,
numbers,
you can increase the decimal if you wanted to.
okay, all right.
If let's say I change this to 25, let's say I change it to 28 cents instead. Let's see, that might make a difference. You know, it must be rounding. So let's increase the decimal and see what happens. Whoops, wrong place. Let's see what happens if I increase the decimals and see. Let's see, that's decrease, increase.
Well, there wouldn't be any because there's nothing for it to multiply against.
That's
There's
true.
no 25, no cents. So it would
Yeah.
always be constant. It's multiplying against that solid number. You'd have to have 900 or 0.50 or something or other for it to do that. Right?
Okay. Yeah, probably. I didn't think it through that much. I was just throwing an example.
No, I understand.
Yeah. But I've given you 3 different scenarios. And you're saying that it's, you know, it's not one size fits all. It all depends on the conditions that you're creating around the numbers. You are telling Excel in every single case where to find the values. You're telling it, here's where the quantity is located in cell H20. Here's where the cost of the item is in cell H17. You notice I didn't click over here, you know, initially to click in G16 to say, you know, 500, because this is a label. This is not a value. This is 0 to 500 units. So it's going to give this cell a value of 0. That's why I had to type in the number. Okay. Okay. Let's just practice a couple other, these are not related to the if function. This is just to see if you're still understanding just plain formulas. Okay. So in this particular scenario, we have number of items sold in 2009 and the number of items sold in 2010. We want to know how much increased or decreased between those 2 years and what percent
Oh, increase.
the increase. This is just plain basic math, isn't it?
Mhm.
Okay. So if I want to determine the increase or decrease, what would I put in here?
Equal.
Equals.
And then you would, C, 5C? C5. Oh, C6, C6.
I'm in C6 right now.
Okay, oh, you're in C6. Oh,
Yeah, that's where I want to put the result of my subtraction.
oh, if, you gotta put the if there.
No, this is not an if, this is just plain formula. This is not a function.
Oh, okay.
I just want to know what is the difference between the items sold in 2010 and 2009.
A6.
A6,
Well,
are you sure?
no.
We're not sure about nothing.
How about
I thought-
B6?
Okay, B6.
Yeah, B6.
And this,
What about,
Oh, is,
B9?
9. We want to know the difference between 2010 and 2009.
Right.
okay,
And that's A6.
B6 minus A6.
There you go. B6 minus A6.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we need. So we had an increase of 248 items sold between the years 2010 and 2009. And we can just simply, okay. So this tells us that we had an increase and we had a decrease. We lost 124, not lost, but we had 124 less. Now, if you want these negative numbers to stand out, what you can do is you can select, excuse me, my gardener, just a second.
How do we do percentage?
So the percent decrease would be,
Yeah, how do you get the percent? So times the 210 times 248.
would be,
I don't know.
equal.
So we would have to go over to the next box to get,
Okay,
Yeah.
I apologize for the interruption. Okay. I was going to say you can change the number format so that the negative numbers are more visible if you don't want them in red. So if you open up your number format or hold down the control key plus the number 1, and you can say, I want it in red so that it stands out more. Or if you want the negative numbers to have a negative in front of it, you can do the same thing. You could say I want it to maybe have in parentheses. Again, this is the accountant in you.
right,
Okay.
right.
Okay. So now, what formula would we use to show what percentage of increase or decrease?
Okay.
Oh, you gotta do the F1.
This
IF key.
is
You
more
don't,
than,
again, this is not,
Equal
we're not using the if function. We're just using formulas here.
formulas, okay.
okay,
C six.
Yeah. is less than,
No, we're doing the formula now, so times the 240, oh, 8,
oh,
the 248 is,
That's the amount.
yeah, the decrease, so what is the percentage of that to
Right.
the,
And when we
The
do a
amount
percentage,
of-
don't we divide?
oh, well, we can, okay, divide by the 248 then. The 306, okay. But I could times that too, couldn't I? The increase and decrease
I
by,
wouldn't want the percentage like that though.
Okay, this is showing about 7%.
right,
Right, roughly.
You take the amount of the decrease or increase and you divide it by the total that was sold in the
okay,
first year.
I'm writing that down, the ink.
And if I wanted to look like a percentage, since it's already in decimal format, I would simply click on the percent sign and it rounded it up. If I want more decimals shown, I would increase the decimals.
Oh.
I'll
Say,
copy down.
oh. So you just hit on the percent sign.
Yes, I selected what I wanted, and because it was already in a decimal format.
Okay.
Remember, when you take a decimal, you take that decimal point, you move it over to the right twice, right?
Okay.
So when it was not in percentage, if I take the decimal point and move it 2 spaces to the right, I get 7%.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's why you can't type the number 7 and then click percent and expect to get 7%. You're going to get 700% because you're moving the decimal twice to the right.
Okay.
This is just, recalling our basic math that we haven't used in many, many years. So, so this was just to give you some practice in thinking of different scenarios you might use, and not everything is a function. Let's take a 10-minute break. Rewarm your coffee, get more coffee, whatever. We'll come back at, let's come back at 11:15, and I have one more function to teach you, and it's much simpler in my mind anyway. It's a simple function that you can find very useful as well. Now, by the way, just for your own edification, and I covered it up. Let me go back to assignment 1. You might have noticed in the sheet at the very top, I have the answer keys to these assignments are hidden in this workbook. What does that tell you?
It's another sheet at the bottom.
There you go. So if you right click and see unhide, you'll see that I have several sheets hidden. The ones that are answer have A and S. So if you go to assignment number 1, 2, and 3, the answer key to that
Oh,
is right there. And you can look in if you want to see what's actually in the cell. Remember, well, I don't know if I ever told you this. I think I did, but I don't remember. If you want to see what's actually in the cells of an entire worksheet, You don't have to click in the cells. If you hold down the control key and press the little squiggly symbol right under your escape key, control squiggle, it'll show you where all the functions and formulas are.
Oh, I see, the squiggly key, okay.
Oh, looks like a.
On the what key?
Oh, it's a worm. Yeah.
Okay, a worm. I never heard it described as that, but okay. It's actually the proper name is tilde. It's the symbol in Spanish that goes over the N. But I call it a squiggle. I like worm, control worm. I say control squiggle, whatever. But that's a toggle key. You hold down the control key and you press that key and it toggles between being on and off. So that shows you exactly what's in a cell. Because when you're looking at your worksheet, all you see are numbers and words and you don't know what's really in them, whether it's a value or a function or a formula. Control squiggle will let you know what are values and what are functions. Okay, let's take that break.
Gracias.
11:15.
Hello? Who's calling? I canceled this. I'm not interested. I have canceled the paper. Thank you.